Hey there, it's International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to all of you. I'm Lana Zach. This is the Debrief. We are going to be talking about the latest in the fight against ISIS. An American journalist in front of the show, Cody Weddell, is back home safe and sound. And we will have all things female empowerment coming up right after these headlines.
A sudden pullback in the pace of hiring across the country. The Labor Department says employers added just 20,000 jobs last month. Experts have been expecting closer to 180,000. In the past 3 months, the average has been around 186,000. Brexit may be about to come completely undone. British Prime Minister Theresa May has just said that if lawmakers reject her Brexit plan in a vote on Tuesday, Britain, quote, may never leave the European Union.
And there's some confusion over whether Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown is heading to Buffalo. A report overnight claimed a deal was close to being done, but Brown calls the report fake news.
A Vermont town is about to get its first honorary goat mayor. A 3-year-old Nubian goat named Lincoln will take office in Fairhaven Tuesday, a town that doesn't actually have a mayor. Residents chose the goat over 15 other pets.
So our top story today is Venezuela, the chaos there, blackouts, attacks against journalists, and one of those journalists, somebody that we have spoken with several times, Cody Weddell. He has been embedded there in Venezuela, talking about all the latest, and he had been taken in by the government of Nicolas Maduro, the embattled president, detained and now deported. And he is back safe and sound here in the United States. Cody, we're so glad that you are back here safe. We were very worried about you. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was unsettling. Venezuela is not a media-friendly country. It's not a journalist-friendly country, but this is something that's really not common. I woke up to 4 armed security officials. They had bulletproof vests on. They had handguns, and they were yelling at me to open the door, that they were going to raid my apartment. So it was unsettling. And then I was arrested. I was detained for, I think, 12 hours is what they're telling me. And I had a ski mask over my face. I couldn't see anything, and I was worried about becoming some type of political pawn this whole time, and the possibility of being in there for a very long time. So it was unsettling, and now I'm just really relieved to be back in the U.S.
I can't imagine that you had an actual covering over your face. And do you know what it was about your reporting that caused the government to come after you?
Well, they were very interested in some reporting I had done about the current situation within the security forces within Venezuela's armed forces and the police forces. They seemed very interested in that. They wanted to know all of the military people I had ever spoken to in Venezuela. I reported accurately that within Venezuela's security forces, there is a lot of discontent. They have been very much affected by the humanitarian crisis and by the economic crisis, and that's what I reported. And most of them, I think, would like to see some type of change within the country, but they can't do that because the top generals the top generals remain loyal to Maduro, and they're very, very heavily surveilled. So I think that's why they came after me. And they wanted to know everything I had done with that story or any other story dealing with the military.
And the last time we talked, actually, we were saying that as goes the military in Venezuela, so will go the political leadership there. So do you think that this is a sign that they are worried that more military leaders might switch?
I think there's a lot of paranoia, and I think they know that what I reported is true, that these people are suffering the effects of the crisis there. And actually, my detention, I think I was able to even confirm that even further. I heard plenty of comments by the people in the place where I was about how they were discontent with their salaries, how They weren't being paid well. They couldn't even buy basic necessities. So I really was able to confirm that while I was there. So I think there's a lot of paranoia from the regime there about the possibility of people switching sides. But for now, it doesn't appear that that's going to happen massively because there's such intense surveillance by the counterintelligence people to prevent that from happening.
For so many years, you lived in Venezuela. You're an American citizen, and you have fought so hard to bring us all the details. Thank you, Cody. I'm so glad that you're back home safe and sound. Now we're going to talk about another foreign story that is deeply concerning, the fight against ISIS. And ABC's John Longman is in Erbil, Iraq, with the latest going-ons there.
Hi, Lana. Yeah, we've been reporting on this possible defeat of ISIS for what seems like weeks now, and US-backed forces have been on the edge of the victory against them. But the fight has somewhat stalled because of thousands of civilians making their way out of this tiny town. Many more people there than I think anyone originally anticipated. Something like 7,000, in fact, over the last week have made their way out. Wave after wave of women and children from this small town called Baghouz. Many of the children as well, really badly malnourished, very gaunt from being close to starvation in many cases, and their mothers extraordinarily defiant, saying that they still support the Islamic State just after all that they've been through. We've also been watching columns of ISIS fighters surrendering, making their way out of the town. And so when coalition forces can be sure that both all the civilians who want to leave and the ISIS fighters who want to surrender are out, that is when the final battle against the remaining ISIS fighters who are still in Baghouz, that's when that can begin. But the head of US Central Command has been warning against any kind of early celebrations. General Joseph Weddell has been saying that the surrender that we've been seeing is part of a calculated decision by ISIS to preserve their capabilities, and that ISIS could be waiting for the right time to resurge. The Defense Department has already said that as many as 20,000 ISIS fighters could still be at large in this region, both here in Iraq and in Syria. So we're watching the dismantling of the so-called Islamic State, but ISIS as an organization, that is still very much a threat. Lana?
Thank you, John. Now to the White House. President Trump speaking out for the first time following the sentencing hearing of his former campaign manager, Paul Manafort. He received less than was expected by many, a possible sentence of about 24 years. He received about 4 years. And the president spoke just a little bit ago saying that he feels very badly for Paul Manafort. Take a listen.
But if you notice, both his lawyer, a highly respected man, and a very highly respected judge. The judge said there was no collusion with Russia. It's had nothing to do with collusion. There was no collusion. It's a collusion hoax. It's a collusion witch hunt. I don't collude with Russia.
I'm going to bring in ABC's Karen Travers right there at the White House as the president speaking. Karen, this was about financial crimes for Paul Manafort. Why is the president talking about Russian collusion?
Yeah, Lana, I think the president there may be setting a record for the number of times you could say collusion or collude in one sentence, defending himself on the South Lawn in taking questions from reporters. But he's misrepresenting what the federal judge in Virginia said yesterday during the sentencing hearing for Paul Manafort. He said that Manafort was not there for crimes related to collusion with Russia. That's not what the judge was considering. As you mentioned, these were financial crimes related to tax and bank fraud. The judge wasn't looking into whether or not there was collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. So for the president to take yesterday's court appearance and say that exonerates him, it's apples and oranges.
And the president was also twisting something else around today. He was talking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, the president was pushing back on this controversy and debate all of this week that the Democrats have been dealing with the Congresswoman Omar. And there was that vote yesterday condemning hate in many different forms. It passed overwhelmingly. 23 or so Republicans voted against it because they didn't like the final version. But the president is now using it to criticize the Democrats, saying that the party has become anti-Jewish.
Happy Women's Day to you, Karen. How's the White House celebrating?
No events here for that, Alana. They did issue a statement, a presidential statement, where the focus was really on economic issues and the good things that the Trump economy, as they say, have done for women all across the country. But no events marking that here. The president will be in Alabama and later in Florida for fundraising events.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Karen, and still a happy International Women's Day to you. Let's go now to Alabama, where President Trump is going to be meeting with the people of Beauregard, ravaged by those tornadoes. And ABC's Rachel Scott has been there all week. Rachel?
Hi, Lana. Well, this is the type of destruction that President Trump can expect to see. This car right here overturned, leaning up against this tree, and just above it, there is a mattress stuck in that tree right there. Now, I'm going to walk up here, and I want to bring in Freddie Tate here, who is a Beauregard resident. Freddie, thank you so much for being here. We were talking a little bit before, Freddie, and you said that you rode out the storm, but you actually came to this area and found your family members dead?
Yes. I had to go probably 1.5 miles to get to my auntie house that's actually across the road. I just kept calling her name. No one responded, so I came across the road, maybe 50 feet from the highway, and I started finding my great uncle first, and then I just kept looking. I ended up finding my cousin and my auntie.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Freddie. We also were speaking a little bit earlier, and you tell me that there were actually 2 children that were inside of that home as well. They managed to make their way out of the debris. How did they end up being rescued?
They got into their father's car, and they just held on the horn until somebody came to apprehend them from the car.
So you lost 4 family members here, but by marriage, 7 total.
Yes.
In your family that are now dead. 7 of the 23 confirmed dead by these 2 deadly tornadoes that hit. President Trump is in town today. He's going to be touring these devastation areas. What do you want the president to know about this community?
The devastation of loss. We want to rebuild. We just need prayers and just support, especially as you can look around, especially financial support, because it's going to be a long process of rebuilding.
Yeah, and this community, from what you were telling me, it's small, it's tight-knit. You guys are close. If most people are family, and if you're not family, then you're like family.
Yes.
What is it going to take for this community to rebuild?
Just support, man, helping one another, pulling together. We can't do it individually, so it's going to have to be collectively together as one to rebuild.
You rode out the storm. You just had a few minutes warning, although there were reports that severe weather was coming through. Can you describe what it was like when those 2 tornadoes hit here at nearly the same time, 170-mile-per-hour wind just ripping through this area?
Well, basically, like I said, I live 10 minutes away, so we took cover at where I was at. I didn't actually get the whole bulk of it as they got it here, but as I got here to see the scenery, it was devastating. I never imagined in my life. When I come down the road, I just got so scared because it was nothing else standing, nothing else.
And that's something I want to underscore here. This debris was not over here before. This truck, I mean, these homes, they flew 50 to 70 feet to this area over here. They're off of their foundation. Where those homes are standing, there is now nothing. Debris just scattered over here. You've been combing through it, trying to find anything that you could possibly salvage. But I want to just ask about how you're doing, Freddie. You found your family members dead, 4 family members dead. How are you holding up? Have you been able to process any of this?
Not really. A lot of anxiety, depression, scared, nervousness. Really don't have time to kind of just take time for myself. I'm so over here every day trying to help my uncles and aunties and all them to regather everything, because as you can see, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
All right, Freddie. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being here and stay strong. I know you guys are Beauregard strong here,
yes.
And I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Freddie.
Thank you.
He's going to continue combing through this area. They're looking for anything that they could possibly salvage, Lana, but definitely a long road to recovery for the residents here of Beauregard, who not only lost their homes, they also lost their family and their neighbors. Lana?
Please send our regards to Freddie. Thank you so much, Rachel. Now to Colorado, which is also struggling with their fair share of some weather disasters and avalanches. ABC's Clayton Sendell is there.
Hey, Lana, that's right. We have just had tremendous amounts of snow here in the Colorado Rockies over the last week or so, and it's really been causing a lot of problems on the roadways. You know, normally you think of avalanches as causing problems for skiers and snowboarders in backcountry regions, but right now it is everywhere. If you look at the avalanche warning map, you're seeing bright flashing areas of red and even black, which is the most extreme, most dangerous level of avalanche that is out there. We saw a series of avalanches here yesterday, one out near Copper Mountain, actually broke through a natural gas line. Another one came down on a highway and trapped several cars. One car was actually flipped over. Responders got out there and were able to get people out of their cars. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but avalanche forecasters are seeing avalanches make runs and be bigger than they have seen in decades. There's one particular one that hasn't been as big that they triggered the other day that hasn't been as big since 1957. So it's really, they're seeing unprecedented conditions out here right now, and they've recorded more than 2,000 avalanches this season alone. So that just gives you an idea of the risk and the danger out here right now. You know, I mean, normally snow is great for the mountains, but there's been so much of it that even one ski area, Arapahoe Basin, has had to shut down. This is very serious. 19 people have been killed in avalanches this season so far in the U.S., and that is why avalanche forecasters are warning people to be very careful, stay out of avalanche territory until conditions are such that the snow itself can just settle and stabilize a little bit. Lana?
Stay safe out there, Clayton. All right, it is International Women's Day, part of Women's History Month. Every day, a celebration of women, or every day should be a celebration of women. We're going to talk about some of the female warriors who are pushing our society forward, from sports icons, fashion icons, to military icons, and every single one of us, the unsung heroes, mothers, daughters. And we're going to start with a message from Serena Williams, who says we all need to dream a little crazier. Take a listen.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged.
It's super, it's gonna need to calm down.
When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical, irrational, or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy.
Officials tried to pull her off the course.
A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking? Crazy. Coaching an NBA team? Crazy. A woman competing in a hit job, changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more? Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
ESPN's Elle Duncan, tell me, how crazy are you feeling today?
Well, now I'm feeling super crazy now.
You feeling empowered now?
I'm feeling crazy empowered. Thank you for having me. No, that commercial gives me goosebumps every single time that I hear it, that I watch it. I mean, I love that Serena has really become and embodies now what women can do. You know, what originally started with her being this young girl from Compton and the unlikelihood of her ending up where she ended up, and then, you know, her expressing herself through her fashion has turned into her really speaking out for women to dream crazier, but in particular for women like me who are new moms, who are feeling all of the anxieties and the nervousness that come with that, and really her giving us permission to say it's okay to continue to pursue those dreams, whether you are a mother or not, whether you choose to never be a mother or not. I remember at the time when she was coming back from having the baby, everyone saying, what else does she have to prove? Like, why would she want to do this? Why would you want to miss these moments with your daughter? And I think this is the reason. I think she understands that it's bigger than just for her own personal gain. I think that she understands that she belongs to us, she belongs to the world, and we as women really rallied around her.
Well, congratulations on your baby. How old is your baby?
She's 7 months old, which means I'm getting a little bit of sleep, but also I'm getting scratched and punched in the face quite a bit. She's a bold one. Maybe she'll dream crazy and be a boxer. That's where it's headed.
That's where it's headed. Well, I have a 9-month-old myself, so
congratulations.
I join you in the the tired fatigue club, but still trying to make it all work. What do you think the message is that we're hearing from sports stars, and is that an authentic voice for other women around the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the message is, it's interesting, just a personal anecdote. Here at ESPNW, we have a women's summit every year. And this year, I was about 4 weeks removed from having the baby. I was invited to go to Cali, leave my baby for 4 days. I was freaking out a little bit. And I go, and it was just 3 days of these incredible messages from these women, in particular one that stood out to me from Michelle Roberts, who is the NBA Players Association president, the first black woman to hold that position. And she said something that stood out to me, in that the difference between men and women when it comes to accomplishing their dreams or their goals or jobs that they might want is that a man's false sense of bravado sometimes helps him. Like, a man will go for a job whether he thinks he's qualified for it or not, because he believes that he should get it because he can just learn it. Whereas a woman might not do it if she doesn't think that she checks every single box. If she thinks that there's any inadequacies or if there's anything that they could push back on her on, she'll just, for the sake of being rejected, just not try at all. And she encouraged women to be active in their own life, to take control and charge of their own life, to go for things whether you think that you are right for them or not, because you never know what that could happen. And I believe that's what Serena's saying as well. This isn't just relegated to sports or wanting to do what for many is a very difficult feat of becoming a professional athlete. I think that this is her emboldening all women to pursue your passions, and that your passions can change, and that you reset and you reconfigure and you evolve as your dreams do. So she's just become this poster child for what is possible when you're pregnant, by winning the Aussie Open pregnant, which made me feel really, really, really good about myself as a pregnant woman that was pretending that she couldn't reach anything on the top shelf. She's winning Aussie Opens pregnant, and to now that becoming the evolution of having a toddler and what that looks like and having to navigate her job. So she's permeated, I think, every single level for women and given them some kind of focus and inspiration.
It's easier said than done, but maybe if we continue to hear it a lot, we'll begin to embody that change that we all want to see. Thank you so much, Ellen. Congratulations on your new baby. Another fashion icon, and champion of women, Diane von Furstenberg, was launching International Women's Day with a new art show in her Tribeca, or in her meatpacking flagship store. I want to play a little bit of my interview with her.
Diane von Furstenberg, oh my gosh, first of all, to be here surrounded by these iconic women, and you, an icon, an activist, a celebrator of women since the 1970s. Your quote about insecurity being a waste of time is something that I try and carry with me. And from all these different aspects of society, the message that women can have it all, be
scientists, poets, activists, first lady, TV stars, singers.
What was the best piece of advice that you've received from any of these women?
The one piece of advice that I will give everybody, and that applies to each one of them, is that the most important relationship in life is the one you have with yourself. Because that is what builds your character. And you could lose everything. You could lose your health, your wealth, your beauty, but you never lose your character.
It seems like you have made a career of supporting and lifting women up, and that's something that we're not always great at doing as women.
We have to. This is the 21st century, is the century for women, because we need to save the world.
And the remarkable artist behind that, Ashley Longshore, said that she wanted her art to really push us forward. Take a listen.
My whole concept was that, you surround yourself with all these amazing women who've conquered their fears, who have lived their truth, and you become inspired by that. It makes you brave to be in this room. It feels like a hug and a kick in the booty all at once. I wanted it to be this hyper femininity, the idea that we surround ourselves with who we become. And women need to be around strong women. If we're around strong women, then we have the courage to be our ultimate selves.
And if you want to talk about a strong woman, we now move to the first female fighter pilot that inspired the new Captain Marvel. She is General Jenny Leavitt, and we were lucky enough to hear a little bit of her wisdom as well.
Today we're involved in a STEM outreach. It's here at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in conjunction with a pre-screening of Captain Marvel. When I joined ROTC, there were definitely more men than women. There were 3 women in my pilot training class. The time that it really became very male-dominated was once I transitioned into fighter aircraft, because there were no other women flying fighters at that time. The law had changed, but Department of Defense still had a policy that did not allow women to fly in fighter aircraft. It wasn't until a few months later that that policy changed. When I graduated pilot training, I thought I had the world's worst timing, but as it turned out, my timing was pretty good. That was what caused me to be the first female fighter pilot for the Air Force. It was more than a year ago when our Public Affairs Office reached out to see if we could work with the Marvel team to help them in their character development for Captain Marvel. We actually really appreciated the fact that they wanted to be accurate in their portrayal of the character. I think they did good. I find it very rewarding if I can inspire someone to follow their dreams, to reassure them that they can accomplish more than they probably realize if they just work hard and are determined.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Female heroes, not for comparison, but for inspiration. And Diane von Furstenberg saying, of course, that the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself. Changing gears now, South by Southwest is happening, and that's a big music festival, technology festival, and some talks that are kicking off in Austin, Texas. And KVUE reporter Leslie Adami is there. Leslie, a lot of people don't know what South by Southwest is, but then other people know exactly what it's all about. Fill us all in.
Hey, good morning to you, Lana, from Austin, Texas. Well, if you are at all familiar with Austin, you know it is a very busy and happening city. But I got to tell you that this time of year for South by Southwest is a completely different energy, because it's not just Austinites or Texans flocking, making their way down to downtown Austin. It's folks from across the country. It's folks from across the world. They want to be the first to see what are going to be the big names in tech, in music, and in movies for this year. Now, it's kicking off today. It runs through the 17th. And over the next 10 days, there's going to be 133 feature films shown and nearly 2,000 musical performers taking over the city. Now, this festival has really evolved over the years. Whether you're a film or a music junkie, or you're into gaming, into politics, there's truly something for everyone here. But, you know, let's talk about some of our featured speakers. Stacey Abrams will be here, Elizabeth Banks with A.D. Bryant, Lance Bass, Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And we spoke with this year's attendees who say they're just ready to get started.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. I think it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Thanks, everybody, for watching The Debrief. Make sure to keep it on ABC News live all day. Our political show, The Briefing Room, happens at 3:30 and at 8 p.m. Make sure to tune into World News Prime. Of course, for all your latest news, download the ABC News app. For ABC News Live, I'm Lana Zach. Happy International Women's Day, y'all.